Hello. It's good to be able to have an opportunity to recognize individuals who are relatively like you and me, normal people who are fed up with what's going on in our leadership, in our representation, and in government. And I think my guest today is someone who has exemplified that courage. Her name is Anna Little, and she has been someone who has historically made a change in this year's relationship of people who are interested in becoming political representatives for our community. Ms. Little, thank you very much for coming on the show and giving me a chance to talk with you to the extent that at first I was a little bit at awe that when I invited you, you didn't hesitate. There was no big deal about it. It was like, when can we do it? And you already have star quality. You know, you've been a mayor for some time in an area that it really is populated by a diverse community. And you have been really focusing on a number of different issues that are relevant to keeping individuals prepared and aware of what the future is going to bring to them if they participate. So you've done an outstanding job. And for those of you who are viewing, Ms. Little was very successful in accomplishing, as an independent in the primaries, an opportunity to become the choice for one of the major parties, the Republican Party, which we both represent, yep. And do it without having the kind of financial wealth that your opponent did. What kind of an experience did that really bring in regard to knowing that it's not about the money?
I think it was extremely inspiring, not just for me, but for all of the people that worked on the campaign with me. It was very inspiring because we remembered that it wasn't the amount of money that they could put behind themselves at the time that our founders created this nation. It was the issues that they felt were most pressing of the day. And it was ordinary Americans who had been successful to some extent in their lives, as all of us have been. We've held jobs, we've taken care of our families, but they put their heart, their soul, and their patriotic passion into creating this nation for us. And I think it's that spirit that we should embody when we enter into the election process, whether we're a candidate, whether we're working for a candidate, or whether we're just the voter that's going to go out and pull the lever. What you do in that voting booth on Election Day, that's a piece of history. And it's also giving honor to the sacrifices of the founding fathers that created this nation. And we need to look at that experience as something that's a gift and a legacy that we need to honor, respect, and make sure that we do our job as a participant in that government.
You're not a put-on. You really are on the point, and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And what I see is an inspiration, a real spirit in regard to how you have been able to personify what honesty is. Why is that character so important in today's government?
Well, I think right now the representatives in Washington, D.C., now that's relevant because I happen to be running for Congress right now, but it's relevant at every level of government. Specifically in Washington, D.C., the representatives seem to think they're elite. They seem to think that they know something that the American people don't know. And I'm here to tell you today, the American people know everything they need to know about how to govern themselves. You see, they balance their checkbooks, they run their households, they know how to make good decisions and run their own lives. And so they need to make sure they elect representatives who are going to listen to them and who are going to further their goals in government and allow them to have the liberty and the freedom they need to make their own choices. See, the worst thing that could happen, I think, in our form of government is to allow somebody at the top level, the federal level in Washington, D.C., dictate to the common man down here in our hometowns. That should never happen. They work for us, not the other way around. We pay their salaries. So we're hiring them when we elect them.
Right.
And I want to be the people's representative in Washington, D.C., and I really don't want to do this job any other way.
I like that point. You know, we're being hired. You know, we're looking, it's like putting out a resume and saying, look, you know, here are the things that I have that are tools that I feel that are very important towards what it is you need. Not what I want to do for you, but what can I do in relationship to making sure that what we get is something that we are both working to do. And looking at it from that perspective, there are a number of issues that I recognized in your resume and in your bio and what you're really trying to focus on in dealing with the nuance of today's relationships, and especially when it comes to cultural differences.
Absolutely.
Now, you are an attorney.
I am.
And you have been able to do a lot of work in representing immigrants.
Yes.
But I did understand that you have been encouraged to think about the change in the Constitution when it comes to the 14th Amendment.
Yes.
Why is it relevant? And if it is needed, what area do you think would be appropriate that wouldn't harm the kinds of advancements that particular part of our legislation exists for?
The 14th Amendment is very important, and it needs to be upheld in that it gave every human being, every citizen of the United States, the right to vote. And that definition of citizen was aimed at those people who had been living and working in the jurisdiction of the United States. And everyone who was living and working in the jurisdiction of the United States needed to have that right to vote. Frankly, it came after the Civil War, at a very important time in history. Now, an unintended side effect of the 14th Amendment has been to give citizenship to children born here who may have been born to parents who did not have legal basis for being physically present in the United States. And so technically, they are not under the jurisdiction of the United States in the same way that was intended by the 14th Amendment.
Well, when we look at it, though, the idea of legalization
Yes.
really is based upon a financial burden.
Yes, it is.
And if a person can financially afford to become recognized as a citizen, then we can pretty much justifiably say that it's irrelevant in regard to who they were born from.
Well, I believe there are enough laws. See, as an immigration attorney, I know that law like the back of my hand. There are enough laws on the books right now to protect anyone who is physically present in the United States, for instance, for longer than 10 years in some examples. Those people
You mean if they handle themselves under the law, even though they came here, didn't really get here under the normal way in which it's done, there is a safeguard in regard to how long they've been here?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there are more than one section in the Immigration and Nationality Act that does protect persons who have been in the United States, who have built a life here, who have been law-abiding people here, with the exception of perhaps their entry or overstaying a visa. There are defenses to deportation or removal built right into the Immigration and Nationality Act. I think we suffer right now, the general public suffers from a lack of understanding of that law because it is not well understood by those who are not specialists in the field. And that's another reason why I've decided to go ahead and run for Congress, because it is in the federal jurisdiction. And I don't know that we have representatives that fully understand the intricacies of the immigration laws as they exist on the books right now. And I think that enforcement of those laws is not going to be as oppressive as people think. I think there are ways in an administrative fashion to process people who are right now in hiding and, frankly, victims of abuse, both by employers, by landlords, by their neighbors, and perhaps even by medical situation. I mean, they're on long lines for charity care because there is no way for them to buy an insurance policy. This is no way to live. And I think most of those who have come to me for help, who may not have been legally present in the United States before coming to see me, they're grateful that I'm available to them. They're able to pay my bill, which means they're willing to pay for medical care. They're willing to pay for whatever bills they may incur while they're here, but they need to be given an opportunity to do so. And they need to not live in that fear that we've created. You see, we have a sub-society right now in our immigrant population, and that has to be corrected.